Oops, almost forgot to start the recording.
Is this today's request? Got it. I'll submit a report before I clock out.
I had the wackiest dream. It was Path to Nowhere related. As I thought there's no new event. I think I might write it into fanfiction. I have an account in AO3. I've already seen this. Called Remix the Idiot. I've only published one fanfic. How cute.
I used to love covering news outdoors until I got shot in the knee.
I still don't get why they chose to make a reference there. The Skyrim of all things.
Are you here to see me, Chief? Feel free to take the time to look at the new supplies, too.
Who cares about getting crime brands? Obviously, exclusive crime brands are still important. Which reminds me, actually. Did I get... Whoopsie. Yeah, holy shit, this is amazing. Is it worth getting to 3 though? Two should be enough.
You're here. Come, take a look at my treasures. If you see something you like, it's yours.
What kind of psycho gives away her stolen stuff for free? Man, this is a boring event. You know, I actually kind of appreciate that Genshin actually does put different difficulties. I mean, I don't like that you need a certain difficulty. I remember when I was starting out, I just couldn't get all the Primo Gem rewards because I just wasn't a high enough level. And since leveling up is time-gated, those events were literally just impossible for me to take all the necessary Primo rewards out of, unless I wailed, which would defeat the purpose of getting the reward. But did mean even events that were just purely gameplay were still interesting to play through, since it was an excuse to try out test your skills. Granted, they're not that hard either. But an event like Echoes of Phantasm is very boring because there's no story to ground it at the very least, even if nothing happens. There's two duckies now. Who used to be here? I think it used to be Luvia.
I don't have much to contribute.
Too noisy. Quiet.
Death is your only destination. It ends here.
Good show's about to start.
Please don't come over here. Too noisy. Quiet.
Death is your only destination.
Not over yet.
It is, though.
We survived, thanks to everyone's efforts.
At the beginning of each end step, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. Slime counter
What's the
each you
first step
don't control,
again?
okay? Creatures you
check
don't
my
control get -1/-1 for each slime counter on them. Whenever a creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, create a 1/1 black slug creature token. And then for a blue and a black, you can sacrifice a slug and draw a card. I like how we're just like painting this picture of how we're going through all this work just to draw a card.
Death is your only destination.
Okay, so before you dive in, there's something I should have talked about with Urza. There's probably already a bunch of comments. Urza is called an outlet in the command zone in competitive terms. This means if you have infinite
It ends
mana, if you
here.
acquire infinite mana, you can play your commander from the command zone and then sink the mana into its
It
ability.
ends here.
In Urza's case, you draw your whole deck and cast it for free, right? Because you're paying 5 as many times.
Please don't come over
Tacho
here.
is also an outlet. If you can combo infinite mana, Tacho is a slug. It can sack itself to draw your whole deck. That's so funny. Walk through it again.
about to start.
Everything gets a slime counter at the beginning of each end step. That's each end step.
Quiet.
So everything you don't control at the end of each end step gets a slime. That's a big difference because that means everything's getting -1 every turn. So in a full turn cycle, that means everything is theoretically getting -4, correct?
Quiet. Please don't
Okay.
come over here.
Then, when those things die, you get slugs, and then you can sack the slugs, use some mana, and draw a card. Where do I start with this?
Well, I'll start here. It's a newer card. It's in a set called Crimson Vow
It ends
in
here.
2021.
Not over
When you say newer, I thought you meant like this year. I was like, wow,
2021 is very new. It's
so recent. Yeah.
It is a mythic rare and a newer set.
What?
The lowest price without a reprint, really, that's available. The lowest price I see is $17.
Okay, he's a few bucks.
Ain't no way they're forcing
Mindset.
healing.
You're at a table with your friends. Someone's playing this, and the life of all of your
Motherfucker.
precious creatures is being drained from
For the
table.
bonus.
Costs 7 though. It's kind of pricey.
Fine, I get it. I'll bring catalysts.
Stop looking at
We
my
survived. Thanks to everyone's efforts.
The cost.
Stop worrying about how much it costs to cast. It's Commanders! You like that best Commander. It's all, just pretend it's Yu-Gi-Oh! It's all free.
Okay, dumb question. This has to be in play for the effect to be active, right?
Yes. In
Like,
fact,
you don't like it, because it's in the command zone. This isn't like it's already active because it's in the command zone, right? That's like a dumb question.
no, it's not a dumb
Okay.
question, but that is right. Another thing that I think I didn't realize till I played it. Creatures you don't control get -1 for each slime counter on them. They don't get the -1 on their own. The effect of the slime counter is tied to Toxrill, right? Because Toxrill is what's
Firewall
giving them
debugging completed.
Right, so
You're
Toxrill's
under
not in play,
protection
the
now.
counters are, they're there, but there's the stat reduction isn't taking effect.
But when Toxrill comes back, the stat reduction
Then
comes back.
there's
Yeah.
Right. I didn't think otherwise, but I appreciate you pointing that out. Yeah, thinking of... It's sort of one of those things where, you know, everyone has their things, and I can see this pissing people off because if they're playing a deck that plays a bunch of... It's kind of like, what's the card? The Crater Hoof thing, right? If they're playing a bunch of guys, and the guys are small,
I
if they're
should switch to a
1-1s,
cooler battle model next time.
2s, 3-3s, whatever, people can't. And like, this card comes out, those decks just physically cannot play the game. They're incapable because their stuff's just going to keep dying non-stop. And I imagine every deck has a handful of cheap cards that have, let's say, less than 2 to 3 health that are going to just constantly die with this card being out in any capacity.
I'll also give some context on -1/-1 counter, like -1/-1 effects. So there are a bunch of things in the game that are like destroy all creatures, but if something has the indestructible or is granted the indestructible ability, which is pretty popular, then it survives that destruction. -1/-1 counters don't care. If the -1/-1 counters get on the creature and its toughness gets below 0, whether as indestructible or is given indestructible, it doesn't matter.
Why am I taking damage?
Is that tied to counter specifically, or if there's a card that
the
seems like
effect
if
of-
something?
Yes, the effect of -1 gets around indestructible.
That's kind of cool. Just mechanically, I like that.
about to start.
Well, slug. How bad could it be? How salty could a big old slug be?
I think this is like the hardest one I've seen yet. It's just making it so that things that have low health are just going to die, just non-stop. And if a lot of people are playing decks that play creatures that are very cheap to bring out, that they're gonna, this is like their worst nightmare. That said, depending on the group of people that you're playing with, like, yeah, sure, this card might still be able to pick up larger things eventually, but this has been like the thing I've been least impressed with so far. Like, in my mind, I feel like this should probably go below Crater Hoof. I'm not going to put it there. From the Timmy lens. I'm seeing this from the Timmy lens of...
I'm still
if
a
you play
professional.
against this and like your deck doesn't get to do its thing because this card exists, like you're going to be infuriated at that being the case. But it's not as obvious as saying you can't untap lands, everything's getting nuked. So it's in between. You can play the game, but you have to like read and experience it to realize you can't play the game, sort of thing. So I feel like I want to say it's lower than Smothering Tide, but maybe higher than Urza. But that sounds crazy because like Urza to me is maybe one of the craziest cards
Shit, what the fuck?
in my Yu-Gi-Oh brain.
This is a real challenge.
Out of principle, I almost feel like I can't put it above Urza just because of that. So I feel like I'm going to put it lower. So maybe I go somewhere in the middle. I'm gonna go. You know what? It's
won't be
been
able
going
to run
poorly
away
so
if I
far.
find you.
77. Final answer.
77.
Yes, I like just going based off the numbers that I see.
So, I was wondering if you would get there on your own. Because one of the reasons that I brought up how the counters work is that in a Toxro game, you have to keep putting slime counters on creatures and keep them on creatures even when Toxro dies. Which adds what I believe the real salt level of Toxro is. The accounting. Keeping track of everything's slime counters.
Because especially if there's like 40 creatures on the board, it's like...
And yeah, even if Toxro dies, at one upkeep, you have to keep track of everything that has a slime counter. And you know what? I built Toxro deck. It was pretty early in my Commander experiences. I played it with my crew. And it was not a game that we recorded. We were just playing to see like what we thought of new decks and commanders. And at the end of that game, we were all like, yeah, nobody liked that. It was a miserable. It's one of the very few cards that like I played with them that was like, no, that's not going on the show. We're not doing that ever again.
Okay.
And I think that this being a newer commander that is kind of a big monster, there's a lot of people trying it out. I think that this went through a wave of popularity, and that's probably interesting why it's all the way up to 44 on the list.
Wow.
Okay. I thought you might get there.
Hey, what the fuck?
Good shows.
The thing is, I think you have to realize, Yu-Gi-Oh! We do have a few effects that have counters, but compared to your game, it is not nearly to the same degree. So I think just like that manual dexterous...
Acknowledging this, a portion of the world is affected by collapse radiation contamination. Recognizing
Fuck.
Overflow.
You.
Warning.
To hell.
Overflow. Oops. I'm gone.
Death is your only destination.
Good show's about to start.
Let the dance begin. D-Matrix, activate.
Good show's about to start.
Everything has gone to shit.
We'll carry on this field.
What happened?
Good show's about to start.
I swear abs also have this ability to fucking
The revelry is
make
over.
your fucking thingy weaker.
Rest in peace. I will take you home.
So
Your
I think
device
it's
weaker. Like, why did it take 5 seconds to turn off?
Dexterous action is
Which,
something
by the way, is how long it takes for an ad to get
naturally,
skipped.
that it didn't even really cross my mind that that's so tedious, especially not even one-on-one, but then when it's 4 people, that didn't even cross my mind until you said it. But as soon as you did, I realized, yeah, I can see that just being a nightmare.
Yeah, it was. And if you've ever played Toxro, leave it. Leave a comment about how you do the accounting. Oh my goodness.
Well,
So it's 44, you said. That's
44. So,
I should have went with my gut and put it over Urza. That's crazy.
yeah,
that was like my initial
I thought
reaction.
you were gonna get there. I was like, oh my god, that's gonna nail it. But yeah, 33-point difference. You've had worse.
I have worse.
Not a death knell. Let's see what comes next.
Funny that Toxro is also my 7th card, by the
Is
way.
your only destination.
True. 7 mana for the 7th card. Oh baby.
Aura shards. 1, a green, and a white.
activate.
Need art. Enchantment. Oh god. When white enchantments have gone so well so far. Whenever a creature
Time to
enters the
die.
battlefield under your control, you may destroy target artifact or
Good show's
enchantment.
about Good show's about
Battlefield
to
under
start.
your control may destroy target artifacts
Warning.
or enchantments.
Overflow.
People probably don't like that because people don't like getting their stuff destroyed.
Activate.
Also, if I recall, a lot of artifacts are giving people mana, so people probably hate getting their soul rings blown up
D-Matrix.
because they want their mana to be able to do
Good
the thing. So it's
show's
not
about
land
to
destruction,
start.
but it's like
Time to die.
kind of land destruction in a different way, maybe. Your control. This does stop people from getting to do their thing, or at least at the speed that they would wish to do their thing. I don't know if this
show's
card
about
being
to start.
multicolored affects its rating at all, because it's like more narrow in the type of deck that it goes in. That could be potentially a reason.
Overflow.
I don't think this is the first multicolored card I've had, because I've had... I think I've had every color now, so...
I'm gone.
No, I think that's right, yeah. I think it is the first multicolored one. It's a good question.
D-Matrix.
Because I had one red, I had 3 white, and then Toxer was the first black, and then Urza was blue, and Craterhook was green. Yeah.
Now, looking around, it's not weird for multicolored cards to get good scores,
Good
but
show's about
it
to
is
start.
it is
Good
kind of all over the
show's
place.
about
It definitely
to-
affects the
good
number of
show's
decks
about
you
to
go in.
start.
Sure, of course. It's just a lot more narrow that way.
The dance begin. Good
There's a
show's
lot less
about to
multicolored
start.
cards on the list than mono or colorless cards, that's for sure.
I think that just makes sense, naturally.
D-Matrix.
I wonder how much that affects
Activate.
the rating on this, though.
Do you think this
This
card
doesn't do anything. I think in the right deck. I think in like
Good show's
the
about
Crater
to
Hook deck,
start.
right, that's going to play a bunch of stuff. I think if you're playing a deck that plays a lot of guys very cheaply, and you have this, here's a question: if there's an effect that plays 2 guys at the same time, do you get 2 activations of this, or is it only 1?
2.
Okay. In Yu-Gi-Oh, it would be 1, so that's why.
What items?
Weird semantic difference.
My items are all passive.
This is weird. I feel like you play this and start blowing stuff up, whether it's early, mid, or late game. Ideally early to mid game, because I think you want to probably just stop a lot of the crazy ramping and stuff in the beginning with like the artifacts that ramp, or just any other annoying artifacts that people are playing, right? I feel like this is all. The problem with this is that it's dependent on how many other artifacts and enchantments people are playing. Because if they're not playing a lot, this card gets way worse. But I feel like a lot of these decks probably are, which is why this card is good, and probably why it's in the salty list. And people hate when their stuff gets stopped. But again, I think I'm looking at this like... I'm overanalyzing it to the point where it's just gonna get me completely wrecked in my score more than it already is.
What is your
I'm gonna go lower. My gut's telling me to go lower. In the higher numbers, just because of the fact it is a 2-color card. It does stop people from doing the thing, and that definitely seems to be, looking at the list, everything that is above 50 is something that stops people from doing the thing, and everything below 50 does not, in our small sample size of 7 cards that I have. So maybe this is like probably the least oppressive out of everything, though, I will say, that we've seen so far. So maybe it's still... Maybe this is the first card that is stopping them from doing the thing, but it breaks 50, so maybe like 63?
63?
63.
63. 63.
63.
Aura Shards does stop the thing in some ways, but I think in the Magic player mindset, and let me know if you agree in the comments, when you're trying to figure out who the good guys are and the bad guys are, I think that the creature players always see themselves as the good guys, and there are more of them, and the artifact and enchantment themed decks are the bad guys.
Okay.
Trying not to use the battlefield. And I think that contributes to this good guy, bad guy mentality around Aura Shards being a number 94. It's quite a ways up there, yeah.
I wanted to put it lower, but I thought just with the trend of stopping the thing, I was afraid